on Thursday, February 25th. Can you take the roll, please?
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Daddy,
Here.
Director Wyrick,
Here.
Director Thielke,
Here.
and Chair Hages.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get the agenda here. Okay, director announcements. You want to start, Peter?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Jim?
Nothing to report either. Have not met since the last time.
Bill?
The city did approve the agenda item for the well, the OBGMA request unanimously. Jordan gave a great presentation that was very well received on especially the perched aquifer structure. And we had an extensive presentation on the stream flow enhancement program by Regina et al. That also was well received. So we kind of had a big water meeting on Tuesday.
Oh, good. Bob, anything on the community facilities district?
No, nothing for community facilities today.
Okay, for Casitas Water District, the board has been working on trying to develop and finalize the safe yield over the past 2.5 months. And I'm hoping we're going to have something in draft form within a few weeks. We're looking at a safe yield that's significantly higher than the original proposed in the Stantec study. Okay, general manager comments.
Just one brief comment. I did receive some comments from some of the directors related to the outreach plan for the groundwater sustainability plan. And I did provide those to DUDEC, and I gave them a few of my comments as well.
While you're on that, John, we had a question as to the process. You know, we saw that draft last meeting, and some comments made at the meeting and then some comments after. Are the revisions made to that before it's sent out for public review, or what happens?
Yeah, well, I'll talk to Trey, but my plan is that any comments that we provided, we should see an updated document to give a final review before it goes out to the public. And then once we're satisfied that the document provides what the board is looking for, then we'll start opening the information out to the public so they can chime in.
Will
Okay,
that
so
final draft come to the board for approval?
That's what I expect, yes.
Okay.
are we going to do it in pieces?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's pieces of it that still aren't complete. So I would hope that we'd have a complete layout before we bring it to the board for final approval.
Okay, I was just wondering whether we're going to take these different segments, kind of finalize those as drafts, and then send those out so we can start getting comments.
Yeah, I'd hope they've been sending out different chapters, and we think we've looked at a couple. There's been a couple of presentations. So my thinking as they come out, as they're more complete, each of the chapters, each of the efforts that we're going to look at, we get a completed chapter. I want to bring that to the board and have you comment and then ultimately approve those sections as they come along.
Okay, thank you, John.
Sure.
All right, we have Basin status report. Jordan?
I'm not sure. Is he here?
Oh, is Jordan not here?
Oh, there he
Yeah,
is.
Jordan's here.
Oh, there you are.
Nope.
There we go. All right. I think I'm sharing the screen.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Oh my goodness. We have to make some edit here on the fly. Here comes the pen. Okay. Thank you. That was the response I was hoping for.
I like that.
We're instead of the midwinter recharge and amazing precipitation and snow melt that seemed oh so promising in the end of winter and some in January, we've had exceedingly dry February. and maybe a drop or two here and there, but not much to measure as far as precipitation. But nevertheless, we can speak to the Ojai Basin conditions. Mentioning the 2020 to 2021 water year, we're just under about 4 inches on the valley floor, upwards of 6 at the ridge tops, and not much on the horizon. Maybe some squirts here and there toward a week or two out, but not seeing much more than La Nada this year with respect to rainfall. But we do have, of course, the depth discrete monitoring well up at the San Antonio Creek spreading grounds. And we actually replaced the loggers they've been in there for 10 years, and we replaced them with ones that had brand new batteries. So they're probably good for another 10 years or so. This graph is from the well at the base of the alluvium, so just right on top of the bedrock, which is screened from 190 to 210 feet there. We don't see the extent of the perched aquifer in this area, so really what we get coming through there is what you see here in this graph. The x-axis here is from November, from just about Thanksgiving time, 2020, up to this past week. And within that time frame, we had about 2 storms, one from December 28th to the 31st that had about 1 inch and 4.2 on the valley floor, and then at the end of January, 2.5 inches. Then you can see right about where those totals are for those 2 storms is about the time frame that those storms are occurring. And then the blue line is the water level in this well above the logger and plus the atmospheric pressure. So what you're looking at on that right y-axis is a basically footage above that 210 foot setting, minus the 32 feet for atmospheric pressure. So basically what we see is that about 3 weeks after the first storm, we see a bump of about 5 feet in the water level at this location. And then it begins to recede again. And then we see the second bump due to the end of January storm of about 7 feet at this location, and then the beginning to recede once again. This is a pass-through area portion of the basin. It's above the typical water levels of the basin in the center where the key well is. Those loggers, of course, are here, and we start to see the beginnings of that recharge in the Elrod well in the beginning of 2021. Put that out on the longer graph, and as of Tuesday, the depth to water had come up a little bit, all of about 3 feet off of the end of December nadir. So we're at 143.04 feet, or about 73% of basin capacity, with 58,400 acre feet in the basin. And we also monitor the discharge side of things. The first daylighting water in San Antonio Creek, we map that on a monthly basis at least, and it's still just below Sol Park, very similar to what it was last month, the end of January. As of Tuesday, the surface water draining the Stewart, Ojai, Montgomery, or Fox Barranca, whatever it's wants to be called on different publications, but it all comes through this notch underneath Creek Road. And it's a nice, easy spot to measure the surface water drainage from the west side of the basin. Oftentimes this is dry, but usually in the winter months, there's a little trickle through there. On San Antonio Creek proper, we've measured, this is the point where we monitor the creek on the outflow of the basin, right above bedrock, where it is upthrown outside of the basin boundary. So basically all of that's coming through there is what is draining through the basin. And our measurements as of Tuesday, we were at 0.59 CFS on the creek proper, and about 0.05 CFS on Montgomery Creek underneath Creek Road in the lined portion of that channel. So basically we're getting about 30 to 45 acre feet per month pretty consistently flowing out of the basin as surface flow, and for the water year 2020 to 2021, 180 acre feet to date. Now, at the same time that we were measuring this, the USGS maintains their gauge on the Ventura River, and it was about, the flow there was about 1.4 CFS at Casitas Vista Bridge, downstream from the confluence and downstream from the city of Ventura's Foster Park well field. So all of those have some influence, as well as the thickness of alluvium there, which certainly is transmitting some of the water from that basin as it flows to the south. How does that look in the graph here? Really, it shows up as no flow in San Antonio Creek near the confluence with the Ventura River Basin. Whereas out of Ojai, there's still a significant amount of flow to that 200-300 gallon per minute continuously flowing, still above the elevations that we see. No real continuous flow across the basin just yet. And hopefully with a little bit of a March miracle, we might have some more precipitation and more recharge. And these values, we'd love to see change, but we'll get what we get. All right, so that's about it. Any quick questions?
Okay, thank you, Jordan.
And be around for subsequent agenda items. Thank you.
All right.
Just send me that presentation when you get a chance, please.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comments. Anyone in the public who has a comment on items not on the agenda, they can speak now.
Thank you, Chair Hages. I would like
All
to
right, hearing
speak.
none. The next item is,
Richard,
Excuse me.
we got
Sorry.
someone.
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Very good. Thank you, Chair Hages. I would like to take a couple of minutes of your time, and I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Charlotte Hollifield, and I'm the local public affairs field coordinator for the California Special Districts Association. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you briefly today. As you may know, CSDA is the largest organization for special districts in the state. Just over 1,200 of the 2,000 special districts in California are members. We've been around for over 50 years. We represent a variety of districts and sizes and services provided. We focus on three main areas, including advocacy, professional development, and member services. Our advocacy consists of 3 registered lobbyists in Sacramento that analyze thousands of bills a year impacting special districts, and they advocate accordingly. We're also advocating at the federal level for COVID-19 relief funding for special districts, given that we've largely been excluded from relief packages to date. And our advocacy also consists of staff like me. We're local liaisons for districts in our network. We have 6 networks in the state, and mine is the coastal network. I grew up in Ventura, most recently worked at Camarosa Water District in Camarillo. I'm very familiar with the area. I now reside in Nipomo, but this is my territory. And our professional development opportunities, as I mentioned, they consist of a variety of workshops and trainings, and our member services department provides additional value to our members. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague in our member services department to tell you more about why we are here today speaking to your board. So Eric Spencer, if you'll please take it away.
Thank you, Charlotte. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Spencer. I'm the member services specialist here at CSDA, and I want to share a unique membership opportunity that we have newly created here. Special districts with an operating revenue under $250,000 annually can join CSDA by naming their price. And this membership would be good through December of 2022. So far, we've had some districts join for as little as $40. And the entire push behind this membership model is just to get districts engaged at a higher level that might not have the opportunity regularly. We know a lot of districts are going through some hardships right now, and we wanted to give some of those districts a chance to experience the benefits and resources we have at CSDA. Charlotte spoke to our professional development, our webinars and workshops. This year, our webinars are going to be completely free to members, and those include webinars like the sexual harassment prevention training and the ethics AB 1234 compliance as well. We have a very robust website with a knowledge base that has sample documentation, reference materials that districts look at and use for their own purposes. We have a very lively website. We have an open forum where special districts can post questions and then receive responses from other special district members that might have gone through the same experience. So we're just hopping on here to talk a little bit about CSDA, and I wanted to share this membership opportunity just in case there are any areas where we might be able to be helpful and to see if it was of interest to the board and the rest of the district.
All right, well, thank you. There's nothing we can do today, but your offer is something we may consider very seriously in the future. So thank you.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
for your
having
time.
us.
Yeah, are there any other public comments? All right, hearing none. Action item, consent items, the approval of minutes from the January 28th meeting.
Chair Hages?
Yes.
I have a question and a suggestion for accuracy on the minutes. In 8B, GSP updated reads, DUDEC created an email address for comments and questions on the plan and how it will be used. I think it's more accurate to say on the draft plan when approved. We don't really have a plan yet approved by this board. So I thought the minutes ought to be accurate with respect to that.
Okay, we'll make that change.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion with that amendment?
So moved.
Second,
Second, Finch.
and call the roll.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Daddy,
Yes.
Director Wyrick,
Yes.
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
Thank you.
And before you move on, we owe you a couple minutes, one from September, one from December 4th. We'll plan to have those for you at the next meeting. They got kind of slipped with the holidays.
Okay. Next item is 8A, the treasurer's report for December 2020. What is it?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to mention just a couple items. The largest expense for December, you'll see there was a payment to DUDEC. Otherwise, most of the other expenditures were pretty normal for the month. And the extraction report, the Director Wyrick mentioned the last meeting, has been corrected for water year 2018, 2019. There was a problem with the total. The actual cells above it, the different 4-quarter cells were fine, but when you added those up, they didn't add to the total at the bottom. So we found there was an error in the formula, and we've corrected that. So for that water year, there was 4,600 acre feet, not 2,800 and something.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion to approve treasurer's report?
So moved, Finch.
Second, Felke.
Call the roll.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Daddy,
Yes.
Director Wyrick,
Yes.
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, item 8B, resolution 2021-1, authorizing signatory authority for banking activities. John?
Yeah, we brought this item to the board last year, but now we've had a change of directors, and so we need to update our signature authority. Currently, I believe we've only got one or two of the board members that are authorized to sign, and so we need your approval to move forward to be able to have any of the directors sign. Plus, this is just one step. Once this is done, if the board approves this resolution, then we need to have each of the directors go into the bank and then provide your ID, and we got some signature card information we'll have to provide also. So it takes a little effort to get it done, but at least once we get it done, then we'll have the ability to have any director sign checks or whatever needs to be signed once the board approves those items.
Okay, any questions? If not, do I have a motion?
Move
So-
approval.
Have a second?
Wyrick.
Second.
Okay, call
Daddy.
the roll.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Daddy,
Yes.
Director Wyrick,
Yes.
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Who made the motion?
Wyrick.
Bill?
Bill.
Okay, got it.
Okay, item 8C, resolution 2021-2, making findings approving the nested monitoring well project and its exemption from Sequa.
Yes, is part of this process to move forward with that monitoring well. We need to provide some sort of Sequa declaration. In talking with Jordan and then ultimately Peter Candy, I drafted a resolution and then shared it with Peter, and he provided some comments and we made some changes. And now that the city's approved the permit, we're ready to bring this to you and ask you to approve this resolution that will, once it's approved, it'll essentially, I'm sorry? Okay. It'll declare that the project's exempt from Sequa under the section that we provided. And that once we do that, we'll need to file the notice of exemption with the Ventura County clerk. It doesn't have to be filed with the state. Any questions?
Is Peter going to speak to I mean, it doesn't surprise me that it's exempt, but Peter, are you going to make some comments on it?
I wasn't planning on unless the board has questions. I think it's pretty clearly within the categorical exemption for information collection, data collection, investigation, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we have a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second?
No second, Wyrick.
All right, call the roll, please.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Daddy,
Yes.
Director Wyrick,
Yes.
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 8D, groundwater sustainability plan update. Who's going to do that? John?
Great. I think Trey's online.
Yeah, and Devin here. I'm at
Devin's
the
here,
geologist
okay.
At DUDEC, so let me share my screen.
Yeah, like Devin's sharing his screen, just give you a quick introduction. Yeah, appreciate the feedback and comments on the outreach and engagement plan. Got some good comments about, especially some local knowledge. So we have those addressed. We'll get those back to you next week, and I'll work with John to get back to the board for review for the next board meeting. We have completed chapters 1 and 2 of the GSP. We've been working with staff to get those reviewed, and I'll work with John also to get those out to the board so they can start commenting. Last board meeting, we presented on the first sustainability criteria, land subsidence. And this week, we're gonna present some introductory information on water quality. My colleague, Devin Pritchard Peterson, has been digging into the data, and he's going to give a brief overview of the water quality sustainability indicator, including some background data and also just some initial thoughts on developing management objectives for this indicator. Devin?
Okay, thank you. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, as Trey mentioned today, I'll be presenting on the groundwater quality in the Ojai Basin, including an overview of existing conditions and how the GSP will address the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act Water Quality Sustainability Indicator. So the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2014 identifies significant and unreasonable degraded water quality, including the migration of contaminant plumes, as one of the 6 sustainability indicators. Groundwater can become contaminated from natural sources or human activities. Groundwater quality contamination sources are of 2 general types. There's point source pollution, such as a leaking underground storage tank, and non-point source pollution, such as naturally occurring contaminants and contaminants that are transported by runoff. Groundwater overdraft, that is the lowering of groundwater levels and reduction of groundwater in storage, can create new groundwater quality problems or make existing pollution worse. As groundwater levels decline in the aquifer, pollutants, whether they're natural or anthropogenically generated, can concentrate, making groundwater unsafe for drinking or other uses. So groundwater quality in the Ojai Valley Basin has not been widely studied, but in general and based on existing data, groundwater in the basin meets California drinking water maximum contaminant levels, MCLs, without the need for treatment, although there is high variability between individual wells sampled. The primary sources of water quality data for the basin are the California State Water Resources Control Board and County of Ventura. Based on data collected by those entities and reported to the state, the potential constituents of concern in the basin include nitrate, total dissolved solids, and chloride. Additionally, some metals, in particular iron and manganese, have also been cited as potential water quality contaminants. The sources of groundwater contamination in the basin include both point and non-point sources. Potential point sources of pollution primarily include on-site wastewater treatment systems or septic tanks and hazardous waste cleanup sites. Septic tanks, if in disrepair or otherwise not operating as intended, present a potential point source of contamination at the local scale and a non-point source contamination at the regional scale for constituents including nitrogen, bacteria, and various pathogens. Most properties within the Ojai Valley have sewer connections to the Ojai Valley Sanitary District. However, there's approximately 780 parcels that have septic systems, as shown in the map on the slide. Total maximum daily load study conducted by the County of Ventura in 2018 identified septic systems as a contributing source of nutrients in the Ventura River watershed. The study found that analysis from sampling of 2 groundwater wells located along San Antonio Creek in the area east of the city of Ojai suggests that it is likely that groundwater in that area is influenced by nearby septic systems. Surface water sample in the vicinity of the 2 wells had an average nitrate concentration of 1.4 milligrams per liter. The other potential point source pollution are hazardous waste cleanup sites. These are sites where most often storage tanks containing a petroleum product such as gasoline or diesel have leaked into the soil or groundwater. Based on review of the Department of Toxic Substances Control's EnviroStore database, which is an online database, and the State Water Resources Control Board's GeoTracker database, there are 14 cleanup sites within the Ojai Valley Basin where the primary potential media of concern is groundwater. There are additional sites, but the media of concern is either soil or indoor air. So these, go ahead.
Could I ask on that? Does that go back basically forever? That goes back to when this became an issue 30, 40 years ago. These sites, or are these current?
It includes both closed sites and current sites. So I'm not sure when the record began for these databases, but I imagine it includes most every site that has been.
So wouldn't it be more appropriate to put current, because I think you actually, every gas station went through a thing back in the 80s, 90s, but they got clean bill of health, so they're
right. You're right. So I was going to get to that, and in the GST we do include active versus not active closed sites, and same with this figure. So so moving along, so all those 14
Devin, Bob Daddy here. I don't want to interrupt, but let me ask you, do you want us just to write these questions down, or you want us to hit them as they come up?
Whatever's preferred. I was going to give opportunity at the end of the presentation for questions, but if you like to ask them when they come across, that's fine too.
Okay, here's one of the concerns I have from just being involved in life. When I hear numbers without a relationship, it doesn't give me an opportunity to do much. Would you go back about 4 paragraphs to where you made a statement of there was a level of 1.4? And tell me where that is, what it is, where it is, and what that parameter is. So I don't know if a 1.4 is just above we're okay, or it needs to be 0.14. So we're 10 times higher, but you made that statement 1.4, and I don't have a relationship as to what that factor is.
Right, okay. Yeah, so that was a total maximum daily load study conducted by the county, and the analysis, I guess the conclusion I would like to draw from the study is essentially that the septic systems are believed to be contributing nitrates to the shallow groundwater and surface water. And the 1.4 milligrams per liter, the nitrate is measured either as nitrate or nitrate as nitrogen, and the limit for drinking water for reference for nitrate as nitrogen is 10 milligrams per liter. So it is a relatively low amount in terms of the acceptable level for drinking water, but it was detected above, I guess, what you would consider as natural background concentration. So that's why it was determined to be septic systems as the source in this study.
Do we have a relationship to where this thing was a 2.0 or a 3.0 or a 4.0 and now it's 1.4? Or is this new? Is this first time data where we're going to hear this? And do we go back and we track these things to where we have an idea of we're rising or subsiding? And that's what I'm trying to find out. I know it's safe, but are we rising or subsiding?
Yeah, I can't definitively answer that right now. I think we would need to dig into it some more. This is one study came across during our review for the water quality section of chapter 2 of this GSP, but it's definitely a parameter that and an issue that will be looked at more closely moving forward.
There also, I would think, would be a sample taken closer to the foothill on either San Antonio Creek or Thatcher Creek that would give you a background level that could not have an impact, could not be impacted by septic tanks. It's coming from the mountains.
Right,
because
right.
That would also be interesting.
Yeah, I don't have the details of the study at my fingertips right now, but I can definitely provide the PDF, and we could dig into it some more at a later date.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the questions. So jumping back ahead, yeah, I said there's 14 of these remediation sites in the basin. They're all located along the Highway 150 corridor in downtown Ojai. But that said, all of the sites are historical sites and have received closure from the Ventura County Environmental Health Division in accordance with its low threat closure policy, indicating that the contaminant releases have been remediated or the plumes are either stable or decreasing in extent and concentration. So all of those sites there are currently no active remediation sites in the basin. So now moving on to non-point source pollution and general groundwater quality in the basin. As mentioned, the constituents of concern in the basin include nitrate, total dissolved solids, chloride, and iron and manganese. This table 1 here provides a summary of water quality data for select constituents based on samples collected by the county in 2015 and more recent data submitted to the State Water Resources Control Board for several municipal supply wells, self-reported water quality. So based on these data, TDS is the most commonly detected constituent of concern at levels that exceed the recommended secondary MCL, maximum contaminant level. That is, TDS concentrations were above the recommended secondary MCL for drinking water of 500 milligrams per liter in 14 of the 15 wells sampled by the county and all of the municipal supply wells.
Devin, this is Bill Wyrick.
Yep.
Is the minimum to maximum change primarily a function of depth?
So the summary table here includes the minimum and maximum value for between wells sampled. So this is, there was one well where the highest TDS was 410, which is the one well where TDS was actually below the 500.
Oh, this is different wells. Okay, this is not variation by depth in any one well. Okay.
Right. Yeah, this is a very generalized brief summary of the data. Yeah, 14 of the 15 wells sampled by the county were above the 500, the recommended drinking water level of 500 milligrams per liter.
Yeah, Devin, real quick, this is Jordan Kerr jumping in.
Yes, sir.
You provide these data, and obviously they're very generalized and very snapshotty, which it obviously brings about a lot of questions because each of these wells have significant changes in all of these constituents over time. Is presenting it in this fashion adequate for the GSP standard and checking the box for preparing a GSP?
So in the GSP, we go into further detail. We provide the time series data and I think would further answer your questions. For the presentation to the board here, and I know it's to others as well, but I was trying to keep it more generalized to go through and not belabor and spend too long on any one topic.
Okay, thank you.
But I think to answer your question, I think if we can refer to readers and listeners to the GSP when it's finalized, it would answer a lot of these questions and would be more digestible for everyone to review at their own pace.
I guess the thing that we'd be interested in before that, if there's any significant issues that we should be addressing early on.
Yeah, so I have a summary slide, and as I started the presentation, speaking to the water quality is generally good in the basin, and I was going to summarize that and then discuss how we would like to move forward with the GSP and planning for the future.
Okay.
Evan, one quick one here, as Peter.
Sure.
Is that chart correct on nitrates for the MCL and for 45?
Yeah. So this is, if you look at the footer there, that's nitrate as nitrate, or maybe I actually didn't include it there, but I will tell you now, the 45 milligrams per liter is nitrate as nitrate. And the MCL, that's the primary MCL is 45.
Oh.
Yeah, for total nitrogen, it's 10.
Yeah. So it's kind of confusing for nitrate or for nitrogen, how it's measured. There's two MCLs.
Devin, this is Peter Candy. I'd like to hit you with another one. Sorry to not let you finish your presentation, but it of interest to me is what correlation to various depths in the basin and exactly where in the basin. I think that's important. Generally the drinking water supply comes from deeper portions of the basin, and I think some of these contaminant issues are more in the perched aquifer zone.
Yeah. So I don't recall the screened interval of, like, say, the one well where there was nitrate above the MCL, but I would say the well sampled by the county and in the water board database have good spatial coverage of the basin, and now I'm blanking on the second part of your question.
The distinction
yes.
between the perched aquifers and the production levels, which
Right.
seems to be increasingly decoupled.
Right. Yeah. So I think at this point, really, the data is limited. It's not of sufficient temporal resolution and spatial, both vertical and laterally. It really hasn't been thoroughly studied to draw any conclusions at this point. And that's part of what I think moving forward, the plan should be, is to expand upon the current monitoring network and to ensure that these areas are monitored that we have questions about, both the 4 different aquifer zones as well as areas of the basin where currently wells haven't been sampled for water quality or water levels as regularly as they should be.
And that's what the city depth discrete monitoring well will provide in the southwest portion of the basin, as well as the northern portion depth discrete monitoring well. I think we're in pretty good shape, and there's a lot of temporal data at our disposal. We do have a pretty good handle of it, and we'll be sure to fine-tooth comb this section for the GSP.
Okay. Yeah,
And
great.
so, Jordan, am I correct in my perception that what matters is the concentration on the production levels rather than on some of the perched, especially if the perched aquifer readings turned out to be more outliers compared to the production levels? Will that be important, Jordan?
I don't know if Jordan heard you or not, but I think it would be important because it influences surface water.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah.
I think both are important, and there are shallow production wells in the basin that are just over 100 feet deep. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's important in all of the regions.
Well, it would also be useful. The city's certainly looking at ways of better handling stormwater off the hardscape. So if they would help us, if it could be pointed out how the city doing like biosoil treatment of stormwater flows before it gets into stream flows might be helpful. It'd be good to know.
Sure. So getting back to the presentation, as I said, TDS is the most widely detected constituent above the secondary MCL, but there's also a few wells with iron and manganese that were above the secondary MCLs, as well as chloride. Additionally, limited depth discrete sampling in wells in the basin indicate higher chloride concentrations in the deep aquifer units in the southwestern and central portion of the basin. However, it is not definitively known the source of the chloride, and it may be naturally occurring. All this said, groundwater in the basin is generally of good quality. Water requires some treatment prior to being used for municipal or domestic supply, but generally not for irrigation or industrial use. So this is a map that shows those wells sampled by the county in addition to the wells in the State Water Resources Control Board database, those municipal supply wells, with TDS greater than 500 milligrams per liter. And one well, the red well, had TDS greater than 1,000 milligrams per liter.
Is that over by Boardman, Devin? The red well, is that by Boardman down there that we don't show the streets? It just seems like there's so few, there's less than a dozen homes and ranches in that area. So I know we have one that's got a ton of horses. So I was just kind of wondering why in the world we think that one is showing up with such a high number.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to your question. Maybe others that have better local knowledge would know which well that is, but it is in an area of the basin that is, it's close to the stream, it's close to some historical remediation sites. I guess it's kind of on the peripheral of the agriculture, but yeah, I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay.
But a good one to ask.
It might be the golf course.
Oh, yeah, the golf course is right there.
Yeah, I think it's the golf course well, and it's the relatively newer one that's just to the west of relatively new, meaning last 30 years. And it's actually screened relatively deep as opposed to relatively shallowly, and it has an interesting design and construction in that it'll flow artesian from a shallower zone during really wet conditions, but provide the higher chloride, higher TDS issues from the actual production screen zone of that well. And it's not very productive either, which is somewhat of an outlier.
Good to know. Thanks, Jordan. So that I just wanted to provide a summary. So again, the water quality is generally of sufficient quality for existing beneficial uses and users in the basin. The water quality control plan for the Los Angeles region and the basin lists the beneficial uses in the Ojai Valley as municipal and domestic supply, agricultural supply, industrial process supply, and industrial service supply. The potential water quality constituents of concern include TDS, nitrate, chloride, and a bit of iron and manganese. Potential point sources of groundwater contamination in the valley include septic systems, which have been identified as a contributing source of nutrients in the watershed, and hazardous waste cleanup sites, although there are currently no open hazardous waste sites in the basin. So now, how will groundwater quality, do we have a question? No. How will groundwater quality in the basin be addressed in the GSP and moving forward? Under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, the Groundwater Sustainability Agency, in this case, the Ojai Basin Groundwater Management Agency, must adopt a non-quantitative sustainability goal or goals that set the framework for determining what is significant and unreasonable for each sustainability indicator. So therefore, it is recommended that for water quality, the GSA establish degraded water quality as significant and unreasonable if the magnitude of degradation precludes the use of groundwater for existing beneficial uses and users, where alternative means of treating or otherwise obtaining sufficient supplies are not technically or financially feasible. It's a mouthful. To ensure groundwater remains of sufficient quality for all beneficial uses and users in the basin, the GSP will include minimum thresholds, measurable objectives, and a sampling plan for water quality. Minimum thresholds and measurable objectives will be developed in accordance with existing regulatory requirements set forth by the state of California, including those of the Division of Drinking Water, Title 22 California Code of Regulations, and as well as the Basin Plan water quality objectives. Conditions within the basin will be considered or continue to be considered and can be considered sustainable when groundwater quality generally exhibits a stable or improving trend for the identified contaminants of concern.
Do we have any data, Devin, on that point about improving? I mean, is there historical data? Are we just really now just getting the complete data set, so we can't really even tell about a timeline or time trend?
Just now, yeah, so we have the water quality objectives. We have some idea of historical and current conditions. Jordan mentioned that there may be some additional data we could incorporate into the GSP. And then the plan moving forward would, again, to be expand on the monitoring network and continue to collect data, either likely at a greater, of higher resolution and more spatially, better spatial coverage.
And on the
For sure.
improving trend, I know that the sanitary district is starting to extend lines into the Arbolada area to get more people off septic and onto the sewer line. So would that be relevant in terms of demonstrating improvement?
Yeah, I think maybe Trey could chime in here, but I think that could potentially be incorporated as not necessarily a project and management action, but an action that the GSA will support and would be identified as something that's going to improve basin conditions. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Water quality is certainly, when it comes to Sigma, is a little bit tricky. I think I had one attorney describe it as a three-legged stool, because you've got, Sigma obviously looking at water quality issues, but you have all these existing programs, including Porter Cologne, Clean Water Act, waste discharge requirements. So we try to incorporate these other programs into the plan, and really let the existing regulatory regime kind of drive the way we develop measurable objectives or minimum thresholds for water quality. We're not trying to over-regulate ourselves. We have a lot of rules to follow to begin with. And then we're really looking at the data holistically. And, right now we're getting into the trend analysis. So we typically apply like a Mann-Kendall statistical test to the time series water quality data to determine for, each well whether or not you see increasing stable concentrations with time. So that's what we're kind of digging into right now. And as we move forward, we'll really rely on the existing regulatory requirements, especially for the basin. There's water quality objectives for chloride. And Devin, if I'm correct, the objective is 50 milligrams per liter for the eastern portion of the basin, and it goes up to 250 for the western portion. So even some of the data that was used to develop that lower concentration as a regulated water quality objective by the basin plan for the western portion of the basin, we definitely have multiple aquifers here, and it's unclear what data they used. And we may have, for instance, as Jordan and others pointed out, higher chloride concentrations that are just naturally occurring in the deeper aquifer, and it doesn't have any association with land use. So those are some things that over time that certainly have to be investigated further before you jump to being specific minimum thresholds for any wells in the basin.
All right, anyway, are there any other questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public? All right, hearing none, thank you very much for the presentation.
Yep, you bet.
And we'll look forward to the next segment of this. It feels good to be making some progress here. Okay, the next item, Form 700s for all the members of the board that have not turned in their Form 700 like me. We need to get those in.
I thought I was the only one, Richard.
No, you're not. So we get those in as soon as we can to Roberta. So I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you, Roberta, for your help here tonight. And special thanks to Mayor Sticks for being interested in this. Some of this stuff's pretty dry, so.
Absolutely. I'm interested. And it's about water. It's wet.
Yes. All right, well, thank you, everyone.
And John, you can distribute that slide presentation to us?
I'll make sure you get it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you
we'll
all.
adjourn
Thank
at
you.
3:59.
Thank you.